Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Crash Course Studio. Welcome to the show. So, Bloomburrow Spoilers continue on, and one in particular has got me saying, "Oh no!" Actually, I've been reading JoJo's Bizarre Adventure again, and I just keep picturing Joseph Joestar going, "Oh no! Oh no!" in all those different iterations. Anyone? No? Just me? Okay, comment below. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Anyways, let's jump into that card and more. So, Sunpine Links. This is a spicy card that, well, let's read it really quick. A 5/4 elemental cat. So, both creature types that are relevant, yes, for 4 mana in red. Players can't gain life. Oh! Damage can't be prevented. When it enters, it deals damage to each player equal to the number of non-basic lands that player controls. Woof. This thing is spicy, and if I'm playing any kind of a deck that's looking to A, gain life, B, prevent damage, or C, I guess, play a decent amount of non-basic lands, which I typically don't because I'm a budget player and I love my basics. Yeah, this is a punishing card that is so good. It shuts down certain strategies, and yeah, I mean, this just reminds me, did anyone ever play Skullcrack back in the day? In Standard, I was playing against Skullcrack, not all the time, but every now and then it would get sideboarded against me because I was one of those degenerate players playing Turbo Fog, and yeah, that just kind of stops my strategy because I can't prevent the damage. So this is a card where it has a good amount of potential because it has a lot of applications to it. Again, just ETB dealing damage to each player based on non-basic lands. It does count you as well, obviously, but if you're not playing much on basics, that's fine. But yeah, being able to dish out a lot of, non-combat damage on that ETB, and again, it is an ETB, not a cast trigger, so it's much more easily usable and abusable. Again, blink effects, clone effects, clone token, populate effects, could see play if it was budget-friendly in my my Giganta deck. But yes, being able to shut down certain strategies while also dishing out a lot of damage, yeah, that's quite spicy. And again, 2 relevant creature types. So this is a card that, again, if you are playing one of those strategies that you really care about, gaining life, preventing damage, whatever it is, you better be on the lookout for this one. And yeah, there are certain players out there, like, I can count plenty of players out there that have, toward the end of the game, 10 plus non-basics in play, and all of a sudden, this is just dishing out so much damage to players. Cool, spicy, has me saying, "Oh no!" if I'm playing those strategies against it. Moving on, Heartfire Hero. We've got a very cute, adorable little 1/1 mouse soldier for a red mana. Valiant, basically worse heroic apparently. We'll see. When it becomes the target of a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, put a counter on it. When it dies, it deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. Probably more of a limited card. That being said, if you've got like a counters deck, if you've got a way to grant power, to double up power, that kind of a strategy, yeah, this can dish out a lot of damage once it gets taken out. Soldier is a more relevant creature type. I guess Mouse is becoming a little more relevant right now in this set. We shall see, though. Next up, Brazen Collector. A 2/1 Raccoon Rogue for first strike. With first strike for 1 and a red. There we go. Whenever it attacks, add red until end of turn. You don't lose mana, step in phase's end. I guess Rogue Tribal could consider it. It is technically ramp, though it is, again, like, ramp that is dependent upon you swinging with this, and that is risky, even though it does have first strike. Early on, obviously, you can get more in, but, yeah, probably more of a limited card. Next up, we got Bramble Guard Captain, a 2/3, adorable! All these mice are so adorable. All the art is adorable. It's amazing. Thank you all, amazing artists. Mouse Soldier for 3 and a red. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature control gets +X+0 until end of turn, where X is Bramble Guard Captain's power. Yeah, again, another way to, if you have, again, like a Power Matters type synergy, Power Matters type strategy where you've got maybe counters, where you've got maybe ways to double power, being able to grant this a lot of power and then giving another creature a lot of power too, that can be absolutely huge. Outside of specific decks like that, yeah, this is more of a probably limited card. Next up, Consumed by Greed. Instant for 1 black, gift a card. And again, gift means that when you're casting this spell, you can be like, hey, opponent, you get something. It's going to be a card. Good for you. Hey, other opponent, I'm hurting you. Anyways, basically, you can decide that one opponent doesn't have the opponent that you're actually punishing with this card gets a benefit. Target opponent sacrifice a creature with the greatest power among creatures they control. If the gift was promised, return target creature card from your grave to your hand. So again, this is a good way to get rid of one creature that has the greatest power. That being said, we do have things like, oh, what is it, Vonus Hunger, that gets rid of, like, all the greatest creatures' powers, like, you know, at 3 mana too, I believe. Is that the same one, I think? I think that's that. Anyways, there are, at 3 mana, ways to do that. That being said, bringing something back as well for yourself, that's quite nice. Vonus Hunger might do more than that, even. I don't know. No, that one's, like, split. It splits it in half. There are cards that force sacrifice. It is nice that it's forcing sacrifice of the greatest creature. So, it gets around indestructible, hexproof, etc. Yeah, I mean, for a specific deck, it could be good. And also, like, group hugging type strategies might actually want to just consider, which, yeah, I mean, how many of them want this card regardless? Consider these gift type cards. Anyways, next up, Mabel's Metal. Instant for 1 in a white. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Up to 1, target creature gets +1. Limited card. Or very specific deck that really cares about pumping 1 and maybe 2 creatures. Next up, Manifold Mouse. Again, cool art. 1/2 Mouse Soldier with Offspring 2 for 1 in a red. Offspring again means basically kicker, and you get an extra copy of this creature, but that creature token copy is a 1/1. Everything else on the card is the exact same, though. Keep that in mind. Mana value, creature type, etc., and all the text on it. Beginning of combat on your turn, target mouse you control gains your choice of double strike or trample on turn. Yeah, I mean, it looks like Mouse Tribal is going to become a thing. So if you've got this and you've got a token copy of it, that's quite nice. Be able to grant double strike to your mice, or, you know, trample, or both if you've got a token copy of it. Obviously, Populate works really well with Offspring as well. Again, most likely, again, since it's very specific, I would say Mouse Tribal, which is probably going to become a thing, but outside of that, maybe not. And we'll see if we get a commander that's Mouse Tribal specific. We probably will. Next up, Quake Tusk Boar, a 5/5 elemental boar for 5 mana in red. Reach, trample, haste. Limited card. Moving on. Sugarcoat. What an adorable art. Enchantment Aura with flash for 3 mana in blue. Enchant creature or food. And when I first saw that, I was like, why? Makes sense. Enchanted Permanent is a colorless food artifact with pay 2 tap. Sacrifices artifact. You gain 2 life and lose all other card types and abilities because the thing that you enchant becomes a food. So therefore it's, yeah, no longer anything else. So this is kind of like one of those, I mean, Imprisoned in the Moon is probably the best of these type cards-ish. There's probably a better one that I'm not mentioning, but yeah, there's probably a better one. But this one is a way to essentially, again, flash, instant speed, take out whatever creature you want out of the equation completely. It's just like, whatever your best creature is, opponent, I am turning it essentially into a food. You can utilize that food. So again, it's a way to get rid of a commander temporarily, because obviously it does give your opponent that outlet to be like, okay, well, I pay 2 tap, sacrifice it to gain 3 life, and put my commander back in the command zone. It's still, I mean, it's kind of like a double tax then, because it's like pay an extra 2 to get rid of your commander, then you got to pay the commander tax on top of what you just did to pay the commander again. So it is a good card. Again, for like an Aura's strategy out there, you might want to consider it, or for like a deck that really cares about, again, just really messing with people's commanders. Outside of that, yeah, it's pretty specific. Next up, Valley Rally, cool name. Instant for 3 mana in red, gift a food. That's probably the least amount of gift you can give someone, is a food most likely. So it's kind of interesting because we see, like, you know, gift a card. Giving someone a card is much more valuable than giving a food most of the time. And yeah, a food. So that's interesting. I'd personally, like, we've seen gift a fish too. I'd rather have the 1/1 fish than a food most of the time. Creatures you control get +2/+0 until end of turn. If the gift was promised, target creature control gains first strike until end of turn. It only gives one of your creatures first strike, so that's interesting, but again, you're not giving up much to do that. That being said, giving all your creatures +2/+0 at instant speed, 3 mana is typically what you're paying for that. In a go-wide strategy, you will see some of these cards played, so yeah, being able to give one of your creatures first strike on top, that can be quite nice. Next up, and the card that I'm going to be digging into, Zorine Cosmos Collar. Really cool art, really cool name. 3/3 Bat Cleric for flying, with Flying and Menace. I did it again. Flying and Vigilance. Here we go. For 3 mana in Orzhov, whenever a bat you control attacks, you gain 1 life. Cool. Whenever Zoraline enters or attacks, you may pay Orzhov and 2 life. When you do, return target non-land permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your grave to the battlefield, a finality counter on it. This is kind of like Sun Titan in the command zone-ish, but like Bat Tribal mixed in with having to pay for the effect. And I believe Sun Titan does not say non-land, and it definitely doesn't give finality counters. So like Sun Titan, you can get back lands, I believe. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong on that. But essentially, it is a way to bring things back. Unfortunately, it does take out, like, you know, the land portion of it, because this could be like a ramp commander in a way. If you were doing that, you'd be like, oh, okay, cool, yeah. I'll pay 2 mana and 2 life to basically rampant growth every single time I attack, or every single time this enters the battlefield, as long as I can keep milling myself, getting lands in my graveyard, or like an Evolving Wilds. I can see why they limit it that way. They don't want it to go in that direction. That being said, like, being able to like reanimate things, low to the ground things, yes, but still there's so many valuable things low to the ground. We'll talk about someone here in a little bit. Being able to keep reanimating those things, or again, like, cast a tutor that might, you know, like an Entomb tutor that gets something right in your graveyard, then you can get it right into play, essentially, just by attacking with this. And again, it does have flying, so it can typically get through on an opponent. On top of that, you're gaining life, so you can have, like, life gain synergies working in there, too. So yeah, I'm going to be talking about some cards that you definitely should be considering with this commander if you're interested in this one. I think it's pretty spicy. It's got some good potential, and it can do some really weird things. So first up, let's talk about the budget buys, and a quick reminder, you can check out all the card list links, the card list link in the description below, which has all the cards I'm talking about in this episode. The budget buys are cards that are cards that are less than $1 within my budget. First up, let's talk about some bats. There's not so many bats out there, actually, and I was pretty surprised by that. We're going to be getting more in this set, so do keep that in mind. So, there's going to be more tribal support for bats, but yeah, Ruin Lurker Bat can be a good one. Low to the ground, 1/1 flying lifelink. Basically, you kind of like double up that lifelink in a way, because when you attack again, you get to gain life. And all these bats, again, are evasive, basically that flying, so you can typically send them out in combat. Also, it does say at the beginning of your end step, if you descended this turn, scry 1. You descend if a permanent card is put in your graveyard from anywhere. So if you are milling, which can definitely be a good strategy with this commander to fill your graveyard up with things to get them back, that can really help you out as well. So yeah, that's quite nice. Sturge is another one. It can't block. It's got flying. It's a 1/1 for just 1. You can also pay 1 a black, pay 1 life to sacrifice to draw a card. So again, low to the ground bats can definitely help you out. Again, especially if you have those, like, whenever you gain life, certain things happen type synergies. And yeah, there's a lot of great ones out there to work with this commander. Make sure you're considering that. Speaking of which, a bat that can gain you a ton of life throughout the game, Basilica Screecher, a 1/2 flying bat for 2 mana in Orzhov, with Extort, which is not an Orzhov technically. Anyways, basically, whenever you cast a spell, you can pay an Orzhov mana. That's where they came from. If you do, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain that much life. So drain each opponent 1, you gain 3. That's a lot of life gain there. Again, whenever you're casting any spell. So yeah, just losing a little bit of life from your commander already makes up for that with, like, the attacking and bats and that kind of thing as well. But yeah, it doesn't really matter all that much. You got plenty of ways to gain life on top of that. Speaking of life, Mirkwood Bats. Yeah, an amazing bat that we just got last year in Lord of the Rings. 2/3 bat for 4 mana and black flying. Whenever you create or sacrifice a token, each opponent loses 1 life. If you have token synergies in there, which I highly recommend, and I'll talk about some here in a little bit, actually right up next, you can do a lot of damage with this. I mean, your opponent's life totals are going to go to absolutely nothing, and then on top of all other, you know, bat tribal shenanigans you've got going on, quite fun things. Next up, Desecrated Tomb, a crazy good card with this commander. It's an artifact for 3. It says, whenever 1 or more creature cards leave your graveyard, you create a 1/1 black creature with flying. And keep in mind, with all these cards, just make a mental note of all the ones that are mana value 3 or less. There's a lot of great ones, including this. You can actually get this back out with your commander, or get out for the first time if you milled it, etc., etc. But yeah, whenever you get a creature card out of your graveyard and put into play thanks to your commander's ability, well, all of a sudden, you also get a 1/1 bat, which again can help you with those life gain synergies. Absolutely fantastic. Moving on, Sanguine Evangelist, a 2/1 vampire cleric that is not a bat, but will help you out in many ways. Cost 3, Battle Cry, so when you attack with it, all your other creatures get +1/+0 until end of turn. On top of that, when it enters the battlefield or dies, you make a 1/1 bat. So again, makes you another bat, replaces itself. It's basically 3 creatures in 1, a lot of value to be had. Regal Bloodlord you might want to consider as well, a 2/4 flying vampire soldier for 5 mana. Beginning of each end step if you gain life this turn, which you will. Literally, you just have to attack with your commander and you got it. Create a 1/1 black creature with flying. Keep in mind it's on your opponent's end steps as well, so if you have any other ways to gain life, like I talked about Extort, etc., etc., then you've got ways essentially to, well, keep activating this, keep triggering it, and being able to make more and more bats for you to gain more life in the future. Next up, Skeletal Vampire, a 3/3 vampire skeleton for 6 mana with flying. Enters the battlefield to make 2 1/1 bats. Pay basically 5 mana. Sacrifice a bat. You make 2 1/1 bats with flying. Essentially, you can just keep making more and more and more bats with this. So if you got some mana, dump it into this and just use some really cool things with it. Sacrifice a bat to regenerate it as well, so it can be protected too. Next up, Mere Entity. Obviously consider changelings too, because changelings are also bats and everything else. A 1/1 shapeshifter for 3 mana with changeling, so you can get it back. It is a great one to do so. Pay X until end of turn. Creature control a base power known as XX and gain all creature types. That's crazy good. I mean, first of all, this makes it so that every single one of your things is now a bat, meaning that they trigger your commander. And obviously, whenever you have those, like, whenever you gain life, all those triggers happen an absurd amount of times when every single one of your creatures is triggering it. On top of that, it can be a great finisher for you as well. Again, when you're swinging with these bats, typically they have flying. I think all the bats essentially have flying, except for changelings, sure. I mean, there are some changelings with flying. Regardless, being able to swing with them, get through on opponents, and then just say, oh, okay, yeah, I've got like 7 mana lying around. 7. Cool. All right, my bats are now 7/7s, and so is everything else. I'm hitting you all for a ton and taking you out. So a great card for a deck like this. Gilrayan, Dundan, Protector. I said all that wrong. Let's keep going. 2/3 Human Noble for 3 mana and white. Pay 2 tap, exile target creature you control. You may return that card to the battlefield under its control. If you don't, beginning of the next end step, return that card to the battlefield under its control, a vigilance counter and a lifelink counter on it. Yeah, being able to essentially blink our commander, repeatable blink effects like this one can be great so that we can take advantage of that ETB more and more and more. Basically, again, this is going to be pay 2, tap this, pay another 2 mana and 2 life, bring something else back from your graveyard. That's pretty good for repeatable reanimation on top of the attacking reanimation you have as well. When it comes to another potential direction for the deck, not another direction, but one to consider and include potentially, or just go all in on, enchantments might be a good way to go about that, because there's a lot of amazing low to the ground enchantments that you can build up so much value and just decimate your opponents with. Cunning Rhetoric is a very good one. Enchantment for 3 mana. Whenever the opponent attacks you and or one or more planeswalkers you control, exile the top card of that player's library. You may play that card for as long as it remains exiled. You may spend a mana of any color essentially to cast it. So essentially, this can be an attack deterrent for your opponents, which is very nice, or it can be a way to benefit whenever they do attack you. Again, a great value engine for you at 3 or less. So again, if you say mill things in your graveyard, mill this in your graveyard, get it out. If an opponent deals with it, you can get it back. That's why this commander can be very versatile in how you go about it. Next up, you can also be incredibly brutal with this commander if you really want to be. Rule of Law, enchantment for 3 mana. Each player can't cast more than 1 spell each turn. Rude. So yeah, this is a card that can be incredibly brutal, kind of like a stacks piece-ish. You could go in that direction if you really want to, though maybe ask your playgroup first. That being said, with this kind of a card, you can slow the game down, you can slow things down that are happening, and you aren't hampered nearly as much because, again, you've got ways to get things back out of your graveyard. Sure, you can only cast 1 spell each turn, but your commander can also get you something back out of your graveyard just by attacking and paying some mana, or by, again, blinking it. Maybe they repeatable blink effect, again, and paying some mana, paying some life, getting things back. So, again, the amount of value you can get out of the turn, you can get a lot more than your opponents might be able to get. Next up, Final Parting. Yeah, again, like I mentioned earlier, getting things in your graveyard can be huge. Milling can be great for you. Mass mill effects are amazing. Repeatable mill effects too. But also specific like Entomb type tutors. Final Parting, a great tutor. 5 mana. Go get 2 cards. 1 goes in your hand. Yeah, you set yourself up. And then 1 goes in your graveyard. Set yourself up there too. So yeah, a great way to set yourself up for success. Next up, Solemnity. This is one of the very first cards that came to my mind because, keep in mind, the cards that do come back into play have finality counters on them. So when it's a creature, if it dies, it's exiled instead. That being said, if you have Solemnity in play, well, here's the thing. It's an enchantment for 3 mana in white. Players can't get counters. Counters can't be put on artifacts, creatures, enchantments, or lands. That means that essentially, yeah, you can just get creatures back out again and again and again and again because they are not dealt with permanently when they die now. So there you go. That's quite nice. Next up, we've got Teleportation Circle. At the beginning of your end step, exile to 1 target artifact creature control, return to the battlefield under its control. Basically a free blink effect at the end of the turn. You can see where that's going with your commander. A lot of value to be had there because obviously your commander has a great ETB, which is also an attack trigger. But yeah, you can just get both essentially in the same turn. Conjurer's Closet, exact same thing essentially except for just blinking creatures. So there you go. Next up, Ghostly Prison. Creatures can't attack you unless controller pays 2 for each creature they control that's attacking you. Being able to just sit back and relax and say, you all do whatever you want to do. I'm just going to stay here. You've got an army over there, but you got to pay 2 for each creature that's attacking me. You don't want to do that. Go attack other player over there. So again, building kind of like an enchantment value constellation type deck that like kind of pillow forts, gets a lot of value throughout the game, could be a good direction for this commander. And again, if your opponents deal with this, you can get it back, so that can be quite good for you. Speaking of getting things back, Gift of Immortality. Yeah. When an enchant creature dies, return that card to the battlefield under its own control, return Gift of Immortality into the battlefield, attach that creature to begin next end step. Basically another way to get your commander back if it dies. So that gets the ETB again. And also this keeps coming back again and again and again. Another great 3 mana or less card to keep getting back. Necropotence, I mean, I don't really need to say why this one's so good. Basically a power 9 type card in Commander, if there is such a thing. Enchant for 3 mana and black, skip your draw step. When you discard a card, exile that card from your graveyard, pay 1 life, exile the top card of your library face down, with that card in your hand to begin next end step. Basically, 1 life equals 1 card drawn. Absurd. So, yeah, you can do a lot of crazy things with this. Rule of Law. I don't know why it showed up twice, but it did. Smuggler Share. There we go. Back up over $1. Enchantment for 3 mana. Beginning of each end step, draw a card for each opponent who drew 2 more cards this turn. And then create treasure token for each opponent who had 2 more lands at a battlefield under control this turn. A lot of value to be had. Again, basically extra card draw, extra treasures, extra temporary ramp with this as well. Again, there's a lot, an absurd amount of cards out there that just look up like enchantments at 3. Essentially, I mean, you can do 3 or less, but yeah, even just enchantments at 3. Mana value equals 3. Enchantment, Orzhov, Sort. My goodness, the amount of value you can have with that. Just building on this commander and being like, okay, cool, yeah, I'll just keep getting these great enchantments out, getting them back out again. Having a lot of value, having a Pillow Fort type effect, being able to sit back, relax, and dominate the game. Yeah, I think you can do a lot with this. Takasi is welcome, another card to help you out a lot as well. Enchantment for 3 mana in white. Whenever one of our creatures with mana value 3 or enter 3 or less in a battlefield this under your control this turn, draw a card. It only triggers once each turn. Again, basically another way to gain value throughout the game. You're going to be having a lot of creatures that got mana value 3 or less. Cool. Again, it's on once each turn, but is every single turn you can have this. So with each trip on the table, you could draw 4 cards from this. So that could be quite nice. Again, especially with all of your blink effects. Next up, when it comes to bats, again, there's not too many out there right now. We are going to be getting some more support. Again, I did say that we are going to be getting some more support from Bloomburrow, so do keep that in mind. That being said, yeah, Aclazotz, consider it. Deepest Betrayal, apparently this is the least expensive version, $4.25. A 4/4 Bat God for 5 mana. Flying Lifelink, whenever it attacks, each opponent discards a card. For each opponent can't, you draw a card. So again, another benefit for attacking with a bat. Whenever opponent discards a land card, you make a 1/1 bat. So again, getting more bats into play is never going to be a bad thing. When it dies, flip it over, essentially, bring it back to the battlefield. Tap for a black, pay basically 3 mana, tap, transform it. Activate the player has 1 or fewer cards in hand and sorcery. So essentially, if you get someone else down low, you can bring it back, which can be quite nice. And if not, congratulations, you just ramped as well. So there you go. So yeah, there's a lot of great cards to be considering with this kind of a commander. One more, and I'm not sure why this showed up right here in this section, so my apologies. It is a budget card now, though. Nesting Grounds. Tap for a colorless, pay 1, tap, move a counter from target permanent you control into another target permanent, active on sorcery. Being able to move around those counters, and Solemnity is great, obviously, because it shuts down all counters, which can do a lot of things for you. This one, though, in another way, you can be like, okay, that finality counter there, let's move it. So you can essentially make it so, again, those creatures can keep coming back again and again and again. But now this episode is coming to a close. Yeah, if you are excited about this commander, make sure you check out that card list link in the description below. Stay tuned to this channel for even more exciting quick takes and spoilers. And actually, I forgot to mention this earlier, but if you haven't seen my new Kickstarter, make sure you check that out. I kind of had like the intro at the beginning of this episode that showed it off a little bit. So make sure you check out that link in the description below as well. The Kickstarter will be releasing in the near future at some point. And yeah, if you're excited about like I am, it's a brand new card game, make sure you're following it. So I'd appreciate it if you did. Thank you again so much. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.